And we're still breaking the story we brought to you earlier on that the former president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, died earlier on today. And we also have breaking news story that he died earlier on in a London clinic, and that support comes from the former spokesperson of the president, Daura, indicating that the former president died in a London clinic. And we have our correspondent Femi Akonde standing by to give us more on this heartbreaking story. Femi, we understand from what we've been getting earlier on from the former spokesman, Daura, that the president was recovering. What seems to have gone wrong? What do you know about this shocking news that has shattered many as we speak at the moment?
Hi, Esther. Well, indeed, it's really heartbreaking news. Lots of us do not know what indeed the president has been passing through. In most cases, issues of health are very personal and private. But you know that when President Muhammadu Buhari was president of Nigeria between 2015 to 2023, he also battled severe health issues. At that time, it was also not disclosed exactly what health condition he was dealing with. This kept him out of the country for a long time, and a lot of critics, piled pressure on him to resign. But he was able to wrap up his 2-year term as president and retired into a very quiet life. From Daura, he moved back to Katsina State, and even when he fell sick again and was moved to London, where we later had that he was recuperating. A lot of people did not know because of the quiet life President Muhammadu Buhari chose after retirement, after leaving office as president. But when people started to hear and ask questions, Daura had to, his spokesman when he was president, had to then come out to say, indeed, President Muhammadu Buhari is recuperating, and they asked for, a private time. Everyone should respect his privacy and allow him attend to his health issues. There are also reports in the media, even though that was not confirmed by the vice president's spokesman, that President Bola Tinubu at some point at around 3rd of June deployed vice president, or 3rd of July I should say, deployed Vice President Kashim Shettima to London to see President Muhammadu Buhari and find out how he's doing, find out about his health. We also hear from that particular report we read on Sahara Reporters, though it cannot be independently verified, that President Bola Tinubu also spoke with President Muhammadu Buhari on phone. But it also goes to show the relationship that exists between these two men. And President Bola Tinubu was always looking out for his predecessor in office because they have a long-standing relationship. We are yet to get an official response from President Bola Tinubu as President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces reacting to President Muhammadu Buhari's death, because this news just became public at about 1 hour, less than 1 hour ago. But we know that President Bola Tinubu would have been briefed, would have received briefings, and would have also spoken to some close family members of President Muhammadu Buhari. So we hear he died in the London hospital. We do not have details now about plans for funeral, because as a Muslim, everyone is expecting that he will be buried according to Islamic rites, but there are no plans yet. We are expecting the coming minutes and hours, a lot will begin to unfold, and a lot of more information will then be made public. Esther.
Yeah, indeed. While we wait for the rites of burial passing of the former president and the former leader, what are you hearing in terms of reactions? I can see a lot of reactions has been trailing the social media since the news broke about less than an hour ago. What have you been getting? Although you are yet to get news from the presidency, what can you tell us?
Well, a lot of people are already talking about it. Former President Muhammadu Buhari was born in 1947, December 17th, 1947. Died at the age of 82. He would have been 83 December this year. He died at the age of 82. He was first military president in between 1983 and 1985 before that administration or that military regime was ousted by President Ibrahim Babangida. But he also contested to become Nigeria's civilian president, democratically elected president, about 3 times before he eventually won at the polls in 2015, with the support of President Bola Tinubu, with that merger of the Action Congress of Nigeria and other opposition parties coalescing and forming the All Progressives Congress as we have it today. That was a very significant victory for President Muhammadu Buhari and the All Progressives Congress. And we already, of course, it's getting to election season. Politicking has started, and people were already talking about. A lot of people were even hoping to get President Muhammadu Buhari's support for their candidacy. So we're hearing reactions from them. Like everyone is saying, well, indeed, the country has lost one very prominent citizen, but not at a time when everyone expected it. But well, it's death. No one is ever prepared for it. But well, these reactions will continue to come in, and not just within Nigeria. President Muhammad Buhari was also quite influential as the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He met with President Joe Biden, with other at different occasions. And we expect to start getting reactions from these world leaders reacting to President Muhammad Buhari's death, commiserating with Nigeria on the death of the former president, immediate past president. Nigerians are also talking about it, talking about his life and times, his achievements, his legacies, and of course some of his missteps as president and commander-in-chief. Everyone is talking about it. It's a potpourri of opinions and views of President Muhammad Buhari's life and times. And don't forget, just about less than 2 weeks ago, Garba Shehu himself published a book, detailing some of the inner workings of the administration of President Muhammad Buhari while he was at the saddle as commander-in-chief of the armed forces. This also generated a lot of reaction among Nigerians. Well, people will still continue to talk. It's still going to get people talking, and we expect that a national mourning will also be announced for the country. We expect flags to fly at half-mast. That will be declared most likely from tomorrow, because he was a former president of Nigeria. It's going to be a national mourning period for Nigeria, but we don't know how many days of mourning will be declared by President Bola Tinubu.
Right, I'll still keep you onto this because it is really a shocking news, like you mentioned, and many of us are just wondering how this happened, although we get to get a word from the presidency or what could be the likely cause. But just a little bit of a memory of the former president. What can you tell us about his legacies? If at all you can just walk us through a bit of it, although we know him to be a man who says he is for everybody and he's for nobody. What can you tell us about some of his legacies that we will be best remembered for before we move on to our next issue of focus regarding the former president?
Well, one thing that President Muhammadu Buhari was well known for, was his integrity, and that was what they used to sell him as a candidate at that time in 2015, and that was also what won him the election, because Nigerians were tired of the system of corruption, misadministration, and a whole lot of issues affecting governance in the country. President Muhammad Buhari came as that man who will effect change, who will help tackle insecurity, who would help also fix the economy. Yes, he did his best. It was also quite challenging, but he was also able to achieve a lot. Also, in terms of infrastructure, there were so many road projects constructed across the country under him. In the southeast, they would also remember him for the construction of the second Niger Bridge. There were also a very significant and crucial infrastructure that was built across the country by President Muhammad Buhari's administration. And in the oil industry, they'll remember him for the Petroleum Industry Act that effectively helped, put aside the payment of fuel subsidy, which a lot of people agree that it has become an organized crime. President Muhammad Buhari's administration, through the signing of the Petroleum Industry Act, made away with that subsidy regime, which President Bola Tinubu's administration came on board and then sustained it. Even in the health sector, his achievements are quite clear there. There are so many turnaround of the country's tertiary hospitals across the country, including the primary health care center. He was also the president when Nigeria, when there was the global pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. It was quite interesting to see how, he was also able to galvanize resources as the incident commander of the country, galvanize resources and everyone together to just help Nigeria flatten the curve of transmission. It was a very difficult moment for Nigeria. The economy went into recession about 2 times under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, but eventually he was able to pull resources together, put some policies in place that helped the country gradually come out of the doldrums and back on its feet. He was in charge at a very challenging time in Nigeria's history. In Nigeria's history, and he'll be remembered for so many things. And some people would say, well, they have their reservations about his legacies and achievements, but some other people would also be bold enough to give him kudos for the best he could do and he could achieve while he was president. Esther.
All right. Well,